Hello, welcome back to part two of Fighting in the Workplace. If you have not seen part one, I would strongly advise you to pause this and go down. I'll link the first one down below, but go watch the first one because the second one won't make as much sense unless you watch the first one. And the first one's the longest one. This is going to be much shorter. And it's just a better overall story because you can see the progression of just how I grew as a young person, and to how I came to avoid some of the some of the most foolish choices I've ever made in my life. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Lawrence. I've been in the video game industry for about 10 plus years as a QA, which is also commonly known as a tester. And so this is my this is my YouTube channel, Video Game Tester 101, where I come to share some of my experiences and hopefully I can bestow upon you some advice and to just getting in or how to navigate through it. Also, if you're interested, down below, I have a free course down below. It's not going to cost you anything. Just come to join, just learn a little bit more about the details. And so we can move forward from that. Okay, so let's get to what you came for, part two of Fighting in the Workplace. As I stated in the first video, I have never been in a physical altercation at work. I never have. So I don't want you to get that impression that I'm over here rock 'em and sock 'em at work. But the point that I want to get across here is that there's always potential for it. I've heard stories of it in other particular cases, but I kind of just want to bring to light that this is a potential thing because you are trapped in a room with people and possibly people you don't like. And circumstances come to where, it can start with shouting and then move up to actual violence. So the second part of this story, which is interesting because it deals with a different person, and it also deals with part one of the story. So this next one, the first one was at Sony. This next situation where I almost came to blows with somebody is not as extreme. It's definitely not as extreme as the first one. This is just like a mild version of it. It's like a baby version of it. And then the last one's even more baby version, So this was at Midway. As a video game company, Midway, when I was working on Unreal Tournament 2. So we were Unreal Tournament 2. We're sat next to each other. We're constantly playing against each other, wrecking each other, talking trash, whatever, having a good time. So I mentioned that there's this guy that was next to me who he was known for competing professionally in video game tournaments, right? I don't remember his name. It's not really important. I gotta say, I think I like this guy. In the end, I think I enjoyed having a good time with him. He was a pretty cool dude. But nonetheless, this is the story. So just to give a little bit of backstory about myself, I would kind of consider myself a hood child, but not really, because there were some seriously worse neighborhoods in San Diego. There were really bad neighborhoods where that was real hood. That was straight out of the movies hood. I wasn't from that place. I was from a small little area called El Cajon in San Diego, and that had its hood-like behavior, but it's not as bad. But nonetheless, I had my fair share of being homeless and sleeping on people's couches and being a little street kid and, trying to just be tough and act tough, however I act tough. I wasn't a pretender. I'd try to pretend to be tough. I wasn't tough. Maybe I was. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so that's where I was from. So I had to carry myself a certain way. And so the guy that sat next to me, he was also a street guy. I don't know how he got into the video game industry. I don't know his story, but he was also a street guy. And so that's kind of like something where I kind of understood his world. He kind of understood my world, And so, again, I also could tell by the way he dressed and the way I dressed. I dressed like baggy clothes and my pants are around my ankles, and I had certain slang and stuff like that. He was the same thing. So we were playing one day, and I don't know how it possibly came to where either he was getting irritated with me. I don't really know why he was going in this direction. I have no idea why. Maybe I was coming off cocky. Maybe I was trying to think I'm Mr. Hot Stuff, which I'm not surprised. Maybe I would have tried to pretend I was hot stuff when I wasn't hot stuff. So one day he says to me, he says something on the lines of like, I want to fight you. I want to fight you, man. I want to fight you. And that's weird, right? That's a weird thing to say when you're at work. Imagine you're at work, you're just doing your work and your coworker is like, hey, I want to fight you. I want to fight you. What do you say to that? Like, thank you? Like, I love you? Like, what do you say to that? Right? And so he's like, I want to fight you. And I was like, why? He's like, man, I just want to fight you. I don't know. I just want to fight you. I was like, okay, whatever. Right? Like, all right. Right. So this dude wasn't necessarily a big dude. He was kind of like on the heavier side, but he didn't come off to me as somebody like a chump. Like the first video, that guy, I was like, nah, like I'm not worried about this guy. This guy here was a little bit more heavy set guy. He seemed like a more of a street guy. So it was like, all right, maybe this dude, like I kind of believed he was like serious about it because I just believed it. Right. And so I was like, okay. Right. I wasn't like scared. I was like, whatever, dude. Like, I'm not afraid of you, whatever. But this is a case to where, again, had to decide because now I'm Midway is like, I think a couple years after Sony, or I don't know how, like maybe it's a year. I don't know. It was a long time ago. But this is where I started to get good. Like I'm starting to get the QA jobs easier and easier. I don't have to jump through that many hoops because now I have a resume behind me. And I knew that my options in life was if I fail at this, if I fail at video game testing, I'm gonna have to go back to working at GameStop. I'm gonna have to go back to working at retail. And man, that sucked. I'm not trying to knock any of you guys who work retail. I'm not trying to knock anyone who works at GameStop. I'm just trying to say I personally hated it. I hated working retail. I hate how people treat me. I hate how people look at me. They just don't treat you like you're human. And that's not even with customers. That's with management. That's like the companies themselves. They just don't care about you that much. Although I had some management in GameStop who actually genuinely cared about me, but that's not the case. It's like this person's hands were tied. And anyway, we're not talking about GameStop. We're talking about fighting. So this guy tells me he wants to fight me. And so I was like, okay, well, you want to take it outside? Like that was the option. I'm like, well, you want to fight outside? What do you want to do? Right. And so I didn't say that, but I was thinking, okay, this is a moment. If I fight this guy, I know we're going to get fired. We're both going to get fired. And then what? I'm going to fight him. And then what, and then who's going to hire me? Who's going to want to hire? Oh yeah. Hey, I want to work for, such and such company. Oh, I got fired because I knew a fight with one of the fellow testers. You know what I mean? Like, I can lie, but I'm not like, it's not worth it. And this guy wasn't worth it either. He wasn't worth the battle. He wasn't worth the battle at all. So what I had done was I was like, whatever, man. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? I know how you feel because I wanted to fight this one guy at my last job too. So I know how you're feeling, right? Like so if you remember the first video, this is where like how it like leaks into this one. And what I did was to try to like let this guy know that, hey, if you're trying to call my bluff, I'll tell you a little bit about my past. Let me tell you how my mind worked when it comes to fighting in the workplace too. So I went ahead and told him the same story that I kind of just told you guys in the last video. I was like, yeah, I was working with this guy and this dude said this and that. And all I could think of is just like jumping him after work, slashing his tires, finding out where he lives, maybe finding out and how I stood on it. I was angry at it, and I just wish I wanted to hunt him down. And if I could see him, if I saw him in public, I'd be so happy I could just destroy him in public and And so I started telling this other guy this particular story. And so I don't know what happened, but that particular story of how crazy I was, because I think it's a little bit crazy during that time. I think how crazy I was during that time kind of calmed this guy down with his whole I want to fight you. I don't know if he was trying to like see if I'd back down, maybe, right? Like, so like if you back down, you'd see that I was weak. I was like a punk. I was a chump, right? I was like, I know punk, I don't know chump, right? Dumb talk. And so, yeah, after that, he was like, oh man, okay, whatever. And then from that day on, we got on pretty well. but I don't know. Maybe he was trying to test me or whatever. So it's a case to where, like, the moral of this particular story is that here's a case to where even if the guy wasn't somebody that I had a lot of hatred for, but sometimes somebody wants to try to, like, pretend this is a pecking order or try to step up or try to behave in an aggressive bullying way. I just kind of just was like, okay, I didn't back down. And I kind of told him this crazy story about how I wanted to like hunt this other dude down. And I don't know if it worked, but we never went any further with that kind of talk anymore. And then we, from that point on, we got on pretty well. This isn't advice for anybody. I'm not trying to say like, oh, don't back down from your bullies or try to tell them a crazy story about how you try to murder someone or something, whatever. I don't know. I'm not trying to give that advice. I'm just sharing my experience with you, is that sometimes in the workplace, sometimes there are types of people that like will kind of engage with you to try to see how you behave. And it's up to you to determine whether, the smartest thing, if I just want to be safe here, the smartest advice is, go to management and talk to them and, figure that out. But again, you're just like, this is just like in public, right? Like if you go to a restaurant and you see somebody, you bump into the wrong person or something, or if you're in traffic or whatever. Violence is like everywhere. It's possible everywhere. It's just not special. But anyway, I just wanted to share that little bit of this particular story. And so I'm gonna then move on to part 3 of this particular story. It's even less impressive. You thought this was less impressive compared to the first one, if any of them are impressive at all. The third one's less impressive. But this is just the progression of how I started to behave in encounters to where it could become hostile. It could have turned into a physical fight, but it didn't turn into a fight. Once again, I'm glad that it didn't. I'm grateful that it didn't, because that could have just destroyed my whole opportunities and all my futures in front of there. Okay, so if this video has provided you with any value at all, if it was even entertaining, please hit the like button because it helps me. Also subscribe, because I'm going to start telling all sorts of really cool stories. I'm going to tell you all sorts of things that, it's not professional, but what do I care? It's in the past and it's the truth and it's my perspective. So I don't care. Who's going to complain, right? Like, it's just, so subscribe if you want to hear more of that stuff. Also, if you're curious about getting in the video game industry and you kind of want a little bit of an introduction, I have down below a free course. It's not going to cost you anything. You just go and you sign up, you check it out, just watch it. And then we can go from there. Check it out. Okay, so let's keep an eye out for the third video, and I'll see you in the next one.